Is it recording? Okay. All right. Hi, class. We are group 12, and today we're discovering the historical comparison of men's versus women's hockey. So, first, we're going to have a little bit of background on what hockey is, which I'm sure you've all watched a game, but um, hockey is played on an ice rink between two teams consisting of six players each, and the goal is to drive a puck into a goal line on either side, and whoever scores the most wins. It's pretty simple game, and there are over 1 million registered players playing in leagues throughout the world today. So it's a very big sport. It's a game in the Olympics, and it's one of the most well-liked games in Canada. So, actually, talking about Canada, ice hockey's roots trace back to the 1800s, and it's often said to have evolved from English field hockey, and Indian lacrosse. So, the game spread across Canada due to British soldiers. And in Nova Scotia, Indians played a game with sticks in a square wooden block, which influenced an Irish game of hurling. This became one of the early forms of hockey. So, talking about how it blew up across the world, the first recorded game was an indoor hockey game that took place in Montreal, Canada, at a skating rink played by McGill University students. So, the rules were barred from field hockey, but chaos started to ensue in it. It's a rough game, and it still is today. A lot of teams began to form after that in 1877 when the McGill University Hockey Club formed, which set the stage for a more organized environment for this to play. So today there's a legacy of hockey in Michigan, as it was the first location where hockey was recognized as a professional club in a league. So it plays a significant role in ice hockey, Michigan does. And this created the foundation for global growth of the sport. So some notable um, tournaments were the Stanley Cup in 1893, which was a major milestone where Lord Stanley of Preston donated the Stanley Cup, which is, we all know what the Stanley Cup is, but it's a 3-foot silver cup, and it was awarded to the top Canadian team. Um, Again, we're talking about Michigan's contribution to hockey, and in specific, which I discussed on the last slide, but the first professional hockey team was the Portage Lakers, which was founded in Houghton, Michigan, marking the U.S.'s entry to professional ice hockey. So the International Pro Hockey League was also created in Michigan in 1904, furthering the state's role in sports growth. So basically, all these different clubs started from this tiny game that happened in Canada, and slowly by slowly the game spread because of its popularity and how it was like entertaining to watch as it was semi-violent at times. Um, so here's our central theme. Um,
The central theme of our investigation is the comparison of men's and women's hockey over time. We'll be focusing on the development and progress of each and how these differences have shaped their place in sports industry, especially in Michigan.
so now I wanted to discuss the ladies of hockey. The ladies of hockey endured a lot of different challenges because of different gender norms, and as they do in many sports. So, something I watched to learn a lot more about women in hockey was this 6-episode docu-series called Defending Their Ice, which basically gives a bunch of background reflecting on the history and growth of women's hockey in the US. And then it traces back to today with the 2024 Women's World Championship and how they overcame all these barriers in the past. And the whole idea of this series is discussing how not only did they win this championship, but it was representing something bigger. And it was a tribute for pioneering women who paved the way for them. So overall, this was a really entertaining source to watch, and I did take the time and watch the 6-episode docu-series, which offers a behind-the-scene look at the U.S. women's national team journey. So this docu-series gave me a lot of background on what these women specifically had to overcome throughout the years. It was underrepresented for a large portion of its early years, and women had little chances to participate at highest levels. So, in the early 20th century, women played hockey in a lot of informal settings at a very local level. So, kind of just clubs that they would come up with. This is also seen, we saw an example in class with basketball where they would just kind of gather in teams. And then once people found out, they started to face a lot of backlash. But the game was not recognized by the broader sports community. It wasn't until the 1990s that women's hockey gained momentum. So, the first official Women's World Championship was held in 1990, and women's ice hockey was officially added to the Winter Olympics, and 8 years later in 1998. So the current U.S. women's national team, with stars like Hillary Knight, Kendall Coy, Schofield, and Megan Keller, stands on the shoulders of countless players who fought for recognition in a male-dominated sport. So that was seen throughout defending their ice. And these are three of the notable women who are kind of activists today and discuss what they overcame and how there are still gender boundaries in the sport. And the series, like I said, highlights how every major international competition, including the Women's World Championship, is a tribute to their perseverance, their achievements, and all the women and pioneers who helped shape the sport.
For our academic research study, I found an article that focused on gender, physical appearance, power dynamics, and cultural attitudes. The research was published in Gender and Society, and it was called The Structural and Historical Distinctions Between Men's and Women's Hockey. It drawed attention to the ways that women's hockey has evolved as a replacement for men's hockey rather than as an equal, which has strengthened the roles for women in the game. Even though women's hockey has grown drastically, it continues to be seen as a replacement for men's hockey instead of being equal. Media bias, economic inequality, and social barriers all influence men's hockey authority. However, recent events show that the sport has shifted toward more gender equality, shown by the creation of professional leagues and growing public interest. A more comparable development for women's hockey will rely on solving organizational biases, media representation, and financial inequities.
Okay, so now focusing on the social science analysis, women's hockey has historically faced a lack of funding, media coverage, and opportunities compared to men's hockey. This has led to limited player development, professional leagues, and overall visibility. Societal norms often associate hockey with masculinity, which discourages female participation and reinforcing stereotypes. To this day, women's hockey struggles for equal recognition, as seen in Hillary Knight's experience of discrimination in youth hockey. She claimed, growing up on an all boys team wasn't the easiest thing. I've had guys come up to me on the ice and just hit me because I'm a girl. I've had parents heckling me from the stands, other parents not wanting me on the team, not making certain teams just because I was a girl. Continued efforts are needed to break down gender barriers and ensure that future generations of female athletes in hockey receive the same opportunities and recognition as their male counterparts.
Men's professional and semi-professional leagues enable players to mature into their bodies and talent, whereas university graduation typically marks the end of the development cycle for most women. If a player is not on a national team roster by the time she graduates, it is unlikely she will ever make it because hockey can no longer be her top priority. The quotation emphasizes the lack of resources in women's hockey by illustrating how many players' careers are cut short by institutional and financial constraints. Professional and semi-professional men's hockey leagues offer chances for players to advance and realize their full potential by encouraging continuous development. Male athletes can concentrate entirely on their sport because of the pay, training facilities, and support networks provided by these leagues. Women's hockey, on the contrary, does not have these development pathways, unless they are chosen for a national team. Women frequently have no professional league to play in after graduating from college. Since women must find full-time professions to support themselves, most female hockey players find it hard to prioritize the sport in the absence of a secure, financially stable league. Several skilled players have to leave the sport due to the lack of post-college options, which reduces the amount of availability potential and restricts the development of women's hockey. Thieberg has stated that competitive sport is an important area for production and expression of gender. And when women were admitted, sports were adjusted to still convey women as fragile and weak. One important environment for development and expression of gender identities is competitive sports. The rules and structures of sports were frequently changed when women were first able to take part in order to uphold traditional beliefs of femininity, which portrayed women as weaker and more delicate than males. The assumption that women are not equipped for the same level of toughness as men is reinforced by the fact that physical components of the game, like body checking, are frequently prohibited in women's hockey. The development and view of women's hockey are constrained by these changes to make women's sports fit into a structure that conforms social standards of femininity, which keeps women's hockey from receiving the same respect and backing as men's hockey. As a result, women are still framed as inferior by society, even when their performance has the potential to be equally competitive or strong as men's.
Okay, moving forward to the significance of hockey, specifically in Michigan. Michigan has played a crucial role in the growth of hockey, particularly the influence of the iconic teams such as what we know the Red Wings team. The Red Wings has a rich legacy as this team makes up one of the 6 original NHL teams, making Michigan's role in fostering hockey talent much greater than other states. Now onto the establishment of women's hockey, specifically in Michigan. So women's hockey has thrived in Michigan with the programs provided at Adrian College. The Michigan Girls Hockey League has also increased investment in female player development and recognition. Now onto the global impact of hockey. Michigan has influenced global hockey greatly through producing elite hockey players, either through the many leagues that Michigan has to offer or through substantial influential teams such as the Red Wings team. Michigan continues to excel in hockey globally by the state's production of competitive programs and leagues.
So now focusing on the stereotypes within hockey. As we discussed the background of hockey, hockey mainly included only men at the start in the 1800s. As it began, the sport included to be a majority of white players overall, all other races. With the rise of hockey, society recognizes important topics within the NHL that need to be highlighted, such as racial and gender-oriented stereotypes. Hockey is known to be a male-dominated sport, but within recent years, in the 20th century, the rise in popularity within women's hockey started to grow. Given all the years hockey has had to be more inclusive, it has not gone very far. In 2025, 9.6% of hockey players are women and 90.4% of hockey players are male. In 2025 also, 83% of hockey players in the NHL are white.
Here are 3 of some major highlights of the topic, and the first one is financial inequality. Significant sponsorships, well-funded professional leagues, and extensive media attention all help men's hockey, while women's hockey has historically experienced little growth and awareness due to the lack of funding, professional chances, and fair compensation. Another highlight is the cultural and gender norms in sports. Because of hockey's cultural connection with masculinity, it is more difficult for women to be acknowledged as actual athletes in the sport. Prejudices often impact female hockey players who face doubts about their skills and trust as athletes. And the third highlight is the rule adjustments and perceived physicality. The rules for women's hockey has been changed to promote gendered views of physicality, such as banning body checking and requiring complete facial protection. Men's hockey upholds its image as the true form of the game by continuing to play aggressively. And then these are our sources for the research.
We had a mix of research studies, statistics, film clips, and we also listened to some podcasts as well. And then here are all our picture sources for our slides. And we want to thank you for listening. And that's all we have for you guys. We hope you learned a little something about the difference between challenges that the men and women of hockey had to overcome. Okay, I'm just gonna cut the end. I don't know how to stop this.
I forgot to breathe. I literally forgot to breathe.
You're
I
like running.
literally